Welcome to our late Bible challenge. I've been out in the sun all day working over in Kaiser, and I'm glad to be home. It was 93 degrees today out there, and my body feels it. I've got cramps in my both hands, and they're kind of doing crazy stuff. But we're looking at Ephesians chapter 6, and verse 10. Starting in verse 10, Paul is explaining to the people. Paul has discussed in Ephesians that God has a purpose for their lives as they trust Jesus and they're born again and they're born into God's family. Then God has a plan and a purpose for their lives. And he's been encouraging these people to walk worthy of the calling. Walk worthy. I mean, you've got the family name. Don't, in a sense, Paul's been telling them, don't embarrass the family name. God's name. And to help the people get the job done, he's encouraging them to be filled with the Holy Spirit. And they can be filled with the Holy Spirit, but if they try to do things in the flesh, then they can't be filled with the Holy Spirit. God doesn't share his glory, and so you have to be empty of self and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And when you're filled with the Holy Spirit, then God is in control. And so Paul's been explaining that to the people, and now we come to the kind of the last few verses of the last chapter, and Paul says, finally. So he's wrapping things up, and he's explaining to the people there's a war going on. And so it's a spiritual war. And it's not a war against other people. It's a war against the devil. It's a war against Satan. He says, verse 10, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. Don't try to be strong in yourself. That'll ruin everything. Be strong in the Lord. You know, the verse, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. That's your motto. That's how you live. And so be strong. He says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Not in the power of your might. In the power of his might. Don't try to fight in your own power. That's a mistake. Verse 11 says, put on the whole armor of God. In a sense, it's riot gear. We've been seeing a lot about rioting and looting and things like that. We've seen police officers all decked out, and they've got all this riot gear to protect themselves against the rioters. Well, Paul says you've got to put on the whole armor of God. You've got to put on your spiritual riot gear because the devil is trying to get you. And so you put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. See, it's not other people. It's the trickery. It's the schemes of the devil we got to stand against. And then Paul explains that. He says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. It's not other people. Oh, other people may have offended you, may have said things or done things, and you think you've got enemies. Your enemy is not people. It's the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, that's rulers, against powers, that's authorities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And so we've got a job to do. And we got to realize we can't defeat the devil in our own power. We got to realize our enemy is not other people. It's the devil. And we've got to be filled with the Holy Spirit to get the job done. Empty of self, filled with God's Spirit and his power. And be strong in the Lord. So, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.